Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Extra Hours, part of the Office Hours Global network. We are a bunch of people who decided to meet in March 2020 every day, and we decided that we should never stop doing that. And so we're a bunch of nerdy, techie, creative types that are playing around with all sorts of production and media production type of things, live events, and more and more we're messing around with AI, and it's pretty hard for us to get through one of these times, extra hours, without us talking about some sort of vibe coding. And so look forward to that. We've assembled a crack squad of these types of people that I spoke of tonight. Here they are all around. Now I'm reporting from Adelaide, South Australia, where it is the future. And along with me in Adelaide, just down the road, is Carl Asmussen. Hello, Carl.
Good morning, everyone. It rained all yesterday, which is kind of odd for this time of year, but it's nice. Everything's gone green. It's cloudy and a little bit warm today, but yeah, nice.
Very good. Carl's kicked off the weather report that naturally happens when we introduce people. So we're going to go now to where the rest of the panel are in America, in those United States. Right up the top in Seattle, Washington, is our CEO, Guy Cochran.
Them colonials.
That's
Yeah,
right.
greetings from Seattle, Washington. Yeah, here's the outdoor right now live. It looks like it's probably 50 degrees out there, slightly overcast. Welcome to the farm country north of Seattle. But it's warming up a little bit. Looking forward to spring.
The farm country. I like to remind people that you look at that view that Guy has, you would not believe that he has a 10 gig uh, symmetrical fiber connection uh, in that location. I
But
mean, that sounds
I-5's
like the
just like
ultimate
right
dream.
there. So I'm close to the main thoroughfare through all of this West Coast. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So then down we go right down to California and Hollywood, where they're still cleaning up the mess from the Oscar Oscar
We're
awards. Is that right,
we're in our
Courtney?
Oscar hangover mode right now. Yes,
Right.
we had
Yeah.
well here on the West Coast the Oscars start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon live. So if we watch them, we can watch them twice because they air twice. They come on at 4 and at 8. So
Hmm.
if there's anything that you missed on the live, they didn't miss one word. They clipped it just a little bit late on the 7-second delay.
Yeah.
But You only saw that in the live broadcast. On the tape delay. Yeah,
Mm.
that was clipped out. Yeah, we're recovering from the traffic and the cleanup and all the drunks, sweeping up all the drunks around town. It's just not
And you
far from where I'm sitting right now.
and you had a marathon as well, didn't you? As well,
Yeah,
wasn't
and the
that the
marathon was
reason?
yeah, the
Mm.
last Sunday, the Sunday before. So, it took
Mm.
them, and they ran right down Hollywood Boulevard, of course. So,
Wow.
traffic has been messed up for, well, weeks and weeks.
Oh, gives you something else to complain about, Courtney. We're glad that you've got that. To zigzag across the country, we go up to North Carolina. We have Muddy Sheagle. Hello, Muddy.
Hey, it's me, Matty. Good to be here. And I'm wearing green for St. Patrick's Day. I understand it's already St. Patrick's Day where you are. So happy St. Patrick's Day, Grant.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Um, and then to complete it out down in Florida is Nigel. Hello, Nigel.
Greetings, and being the token Englishman, I can't avoid the weather conversation. So it has been raining here quite fiercely. So if I suddenly go dark, that'll be the power going off for the third time. But other than that, it's all splendid in Orlando.
Very nice. All right. Well, we'll see. Oh, we've had a bunch of questions populate in, which is really cool. A quick hello to some people in the chat. I didn't have open, but people have joined us in Makana. If you want to join there, the whole chat system. We keep it off in our separate system, which is where we manage all of our questions as well. If you go to officehours.global/join, you sign up there, you'll get the links and you'll be able to see what's going on. So look at that. We've got Zach and Justin, Mickey. Good to have Mickey around. And I think we've got a few questions there too. But I don't know if there's one. I was just looking quickly. But Guy, can you tell us about yesterday? The cooking. Oh, there we go. John has asked a question. That's. I was like, I wonder if one person has asked a question about it. I think John did. Let's do a Cochran. So I'm going to put that to the top here. Courtney, go ahead. The first question.
Yeah.
All
So
righty. Oh, sorry. Let me ask the
Let him
question
read it.
first, Guy,
Yeah,
before
that's
you
right.
receive that Cochran. All right. This one comes in from John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, in the United States. Let's do a Cochran. Does anyone want to know about yesterday's cooking show? Was that really Foltz that wrote that
I
in?
do. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty wild. A friend of mine who I used to do a lot of business with, his channel is Benji Man TV. He invited me over for a steak, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna live stream this. I want to show you the new setup." And I work at Tenacious Ventures with one of the PAs who's now TDing that show. So he said, "You got to check out our new setup. We're remotely controlling the set. I don't even go to his place anymore. I just log in and I control the PTZs of this cooking show." And I'm like, really? Like, I didn't know you guys were that sophisticated. Like, it's Benji. Like, he's just like normally a vlogger with his phone walking around, and he doesn't get super sophisticated. But I guess he's got a new MacBook Pro with, let me pull up one of the pictures. Maybe this will be helpful to kind of see behind the scenes.
Yeah. It was
So
very
let's
cool.
expand this out a little bit so you guys can see it. Yeah, there we
So
go.
the guy
So
they were saying, this is what was interesting to me. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, no
they
problem.
because the history was that they did have a bunch of the high end cameras and things, a bunch of Sony cameras, and they were doing the whole thing with a switcher and all of that. And so to have gone from that to this setup is really interesting. Like that's what was fascinating to me, right? That it was the journey of it to going to this kind of run and gun type system is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so they did have the big system, and then they found that they had to have multiple people, and his wife doesn't really like a bunch of crew in the house because we've had BC Live. Like, so to back up, her channel has like 3 million subscribers, so they have a daily vlog as well that's super popular. And I did a 24-hour challenge with them called Dancember years ago, where we had like 26,000 people on live, and we brought in BC Live, who now does the Democratic National Convention. Like, they're big time, big time. So Google paid for all that, and I used to do it for free for them for years and years and years. And then as it got out of control, I was just like, you guys need to hire somebody. So that Google actually paid for it and brought in BC Live. But they're back to doing this lightweight setup, and it's cool because with the presets of these Osmo cameras, you can get the frying pan and the cooking. What do they call that? The board. In
Charcuterie?
just
Chopping board.
the chopping block. Yeah, with
Chopping
just one camera. So he's just pushing a button remotely. So the TD's in Seattle. And the funniest thing was, let me show this other shot. Let's see if we go back here. The funny one to me was I brought in after hours. So people were watching in after hours, and I brought in, let's see, is this one the video? This one, come on, where's the video? There's the thumbnail. That wound up being the
Wow,
thumbnail.
that's
Yeah,
about
cool.
$200 worth of meat right there.
Yeah, some of it was Wagyu, American Wagyu from Costco. Here's the video. So partway through this video, so there's Ecamm, that's what's on the laptop, and it's being controlled by TeamViewer. So the gentleman who just graduated from Washington State University is from their broadcast program is TDing this show, but he's not in the room. But man, these MacBook Pro speakers, he's got comms through Discord. So he logs himself in Discord and he starts talking to us, and it sounds like he's there. Those speakers are so dang good. So a couple innovative things there. You know, he's PTZing, controlling a beta version of Ecamm, which through this laptop, he's able to push a 9:16 and a 16:9 to YouTube and Instagram at the same time. And what
Yeah,
we
it's
saw
cool.
today was there was 7,000 views on the on the 9:16. So the vertical got way more views than the regular 16:9. The 16:9 looked clear, but it was cool to see these double stack. I'll pull up the video or put
Yeah,
it
I
in
liked
chat.
that.
Yeah, the double stack was cool where it was two angles
Yeah.
with one on top of the other. So this camera would be on the top and then the other camera would be on the bottom. So you'd get the wide and the close up. And then here was after hours. So the folks in after hours, I was supposed to just show the setup, but I was like, hey, you guys want to hang out for the live? And so I had this Triad Orbit stand with, or actually it was a regular music stand, but I stuck this Triad Orbit, they call it the Desk IO, which allows you to use, it's like a rubber band across the top so you could tilt your Mac, but this is just a MacBook Air, but it has that great 1080p camera. And so when I looked at the screenshot you sent me, Grant, it looked really good. Like, how was it? How was your viewing experience?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it worked really well, and looked great in Zoom for that after hours experience. But this was all learning for me because I wasn't aware that the Osmos could do a live webcam out, and that you could also do PTZ control of them, and that was through Ecamm,
Mm-hmm.
and it all seemed pretty straightforward to just manage those. And what was cool was actually setting presets as well, so that you could go from the stove over to the cooking, to the chopping block or whatever, set those as presets, put them on a stream deck. He didn't have a stream deck in this example, but he could have had a stream deck with the presets. And now, I mean, switching a show, those cameras look great. They're a 1-inch sensor, right? So they
Yeah.
look
And they're
they
like
look perfectly
$600 or
good.
something. They're not bad. I mean, for the picture, for a 1-inch sensor. I mean, I remember when a 2/3 inch camera, a DSLR 500, when I first got into the business, was like $15,000 plus the lens, and that was to get to a 2/3 inch. Because the norm was a
Yeah.
1/3 inch. Like our XL1 was a 1/3 inch. So to get to 2/3, that was like the holy grail. Now we go to Costco and pick these DJI Osmos up for $600, 5 or 6. I think it's 600, and the picture looks great.
Yeah.
Were they recording
It looked
locally as
good.
well? Yeah.
I asked that question today because we are going to do another shoot on Thursday. And I said, can you ISO an Ecamm? And I didn't get an answer yet. I know with Mimo Live, you can do an ISO. And I'm like, dude, there's
Can
another
with Ecamm
professional.
too.
You
I
can
can't
with
remember
Ecamm?
if the webcam
Yeah,
out.
you can do
You can do it
individuals.
with Ecamm, but I can't remember if you can do it in camera if you're doing webcam out with the Osmo.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. That
If
would
you're
be the
using
ultimate.
webcam, it turns off the internal SD card
Yeah,
recording.
I'm pretty sure when you turn the webcam feature on, a lot of the recording features turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a
What's,
little
what's
gotchas, but
controlling the PTZ of the cameras? That's not Ecamm, I assume. It must
that's
be another piece
Ecamm.
of
It
software.
was.
So Ecamm can
Ecamm.
control
Yeah,
that
it's
PTZ
UVC.
for that.
Yeah, it's UVC connection, so it talks both
Yeah.
ways.
So it had a full little joystick on screen. He had both of them up, I think. Was that right? Where he could control both of them sort of
Yep.
sort of at the same time, or at least easily switch between them. And then set those presets as well. But what was interesting to me is looking at, I sent Guy I was looking at both live streams, the 916, the 16:9, and then the after hours feed as well. But what was interesting to me is I normally am like, I want that widescreen view, and of course it was higher res, right, technically, and so it just looked a little sharper in 16:9. But as soon as it went to that double up, almost like multi-view, I was like, hang on a second, this 916 view is actually providing more information to me than the typical 16:9. And I was kind of leaning towards that. And of course, if I was just holding a phone, that would actually be a really good viewing experience. So I don't know. There was a lot of mind bending for me yesterday, Guy, as I was watching that, because I think you mentioned as well about, gee, this could be an approach for NAB coverage as well. Like, a couple of these hanging off a laptop, some sort of little setup that you roll around, and now you can have someone controlling those two PTZs and whatever. And then of course the sound as well. We just had the DJI mics
DJI mics,
clicked
yeah.
on, moved it out for as a little Atmos sound, like, and which worked really well with the sizzling away. You grabbed it at one point and spoke, and that worked really well. The only thing I would say is that listening to the TD as a sort of a producer asking on behalf of questions on behalf of people, that obviously didn't come through very well because it wasn't a direct sound. It was just hearing it on the laptop bleeding into the microphones. And
okay.
so that would be the only
Good
tweak that
feedback.
I'd be saying is like try to loop back something, hijack something, get that sound into the feed as well, and then it'd be like this direct sound. That would be really cool. But
That makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah,
apart
here,
from
let me
that, it
show
was
you
awesome.
the YouTube part. If you could cut to me full, and I'll take this. So here it says, if I search for his channel, 2K, so 2,000 people watched it 23 hours ago. This is the 16 by 9. The 9 by 16 is 7,300. So what I'm waiting for to hear is the average view duration, because this one will probably get like 20 minutes. This, because it just pops up in the feed, and here's that look that we were talking about with the double stack. Even though it has way more views, I wonder how long people actually hung out. Did they stay or did they leave? So as the show goes on, you can see he cuts up mushrooms. You could see that kind of look and view as he's
It's
grilling the
kind of a
steak.
cool view. Yeah.
It is. It's just different,
Yeah.
and so
Hmm.
I'm humbled, like I'm like, oh, hey, actually, he did a little, he did an on-air move there. That was kind of cool to see the PTZ fly over.
Little whip
I mean,
pan. Yes.
yeah, he whipped it
And
back.
that's the thing, the presets. Just cut to the presets and away it went.
I mean, you can't
But
argue with views. I mean, he's getting the views, he's getting the comments. It's like the video is good enough. In fact, somebody commented and said the video looks amazing, and it was funny because Florence before the show she's great in Ecamm, and she was saying in as we were talking about how to bring up the comments, she actually showed the TD how to bring up the comments, and then he used it during the show. So it was kind of cool that
right.
office hours helped them create. So I was like, wow, that's pretty neat. That actually it was funny because they were talking to each other. So one laptop was talking to the other laptop. So Benji and I are in the room, and we're like, these people are talking to each other. One's in Berlin, one's in Seattle, and then the other person was in Georgia, I think. So it was like weird to just be
Yeah,
sitting there
I
watching
didn't
two laptops
I didn't
talk to each other.
talk, but I was there as well, like I was listening to all of that and it was easy to hear. Um, but I think the interesting thing you said about the 916 version was that when it goes live, that it pops up in people's shorts, which is very interesting, right? So now it was like, it's if people are flipping through their shorts, it's coming up with a live. I think that would be part of how it gets so many more views too.
And it's the
But as you
full
said, the
duration,
duration
so it's
helps.
not it's
Right? Yeah.
it's deemed a short, but it's a long. So that's the interesting
Yeah.
thing, is you're picking up all these additional view counts and potential, I don't know, he has this ad revenue turned on. So if he's getting paid on ads, then that's brilliant to be able to teach this to other
I
people.
wonder.
And
I wonder if it only shows up in shorts while it's live. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
while it's
just searched for his
actively
channel, and
live.
yeah, that's a good question.
There's a setting in YouTube. I think you can set it to show all live, prioritize live feeds, and it'll put them all at the top of your feed.
Hmm.
At least that's what happens in mine. So if there's anything live, it bubbles the top. And then once it's over, it might still, I don't know if it'll appear in shorts, but then it goes into the regular YouTube feed, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, very cool. Thanks, Guy, for thinking to bring us along.
It was an
Um,
accidental, fun
Accidental theatre.
after hours discussion. Yeah, I mean, I was just like
Yeah.
thinking I would show a little bit behind the scenes, and next thing you know, it turned into like an hour and a half of people hanging out. So it was cool to bring everybody along. And we sent out an after hours alert. So for those of you who
Yeah, it's
aren't
good.
subscribed to that, you missed out because there was only like 25 people in after hours. I was like, man, there should have been like
Yeah.
50. Yeah, it's good
Oh,
stuff.
and you weren't faking your response when you ate some of it. That
Oh,
was
dude, that
genuinely
stuff was
good. Yeah.
so good.
It
Well, you
looked
could
good.
imagine. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It got me thinking about there was some things I was like, yeah, that's how I do it. And then there was things like, oh, that's a way better way of doing it. Like, yeah, so it was handy. One of
Nice.
those cool things where it was like we were geeking out about the tech, and then you'd take a step back and you're like, oh, now about the food, it's like, oh, and then about the tech, so it's pretty cool. Nice. All right. Courtney, did you want to add anything else there?
I was just going to ask, Zoom Liminal announced their go live of Zoom graphics. Did you use that to bring in the chat room or the comments in the chat or into the
No,
live
because
stream?
we
Because it
weren't
wasn't in
using
Zoom,
Zoom.
right? No.
Yeah, we weren't
Oh, you
using
were
Zoom
just
as our
using-
backhaul, so this was just
okay.
straight up cameras live, and then the comments were brought in through Ecamm. And I guess that's one of the other cool features of Ecamm is it shows the comments from all three platforms. So they're all in one tight spot. And then when the TD wants to select one of the things that Florence showed is that you can make their avatar, so their head or whatever their picture is of their profile in Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, you could make it bigger or smaller. So it really makes your audience engagement go up because people are like, hey, that's me, that's my head, like, hey, honey, look, I'm on YouTube. So it's that fan engagement thing that gets people all excited. Yeah. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about how all that stuff works. I installed the beta on my Mac Mini M4 to give it a roll. I'm a hardcore Mimo Live user, and so I'm like, oh, what's the other side look like? I always thought of it as a little less than, but now I'm starting to see the new power of the beta, and I'm like, this is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Well, and they were also streaming all from there as well to multiple platforms too, right? So it was Facebook, YouTube, Instagram.
Yeah,
and they were saying too with Instagram they were actually sending both, or it was doing a cut. I don't know, but basically it was like depending on the device that people are looking at, they would either get the 916 or the 16:9 view on Instagram. And it was Instagram that was handling that. So
I didn't check it out on Instagram, but that's what he said. It was down the center cut, so it wasn't like doing AI where it would follow and move around, which would be the next level, to center cut automatically. But yeah, the bandwidth, I didn't check the activity monitor to see what it was, but I would imagine it's probably about 10 megabit per, so 1080 or maybe less, like 6 megabit, 6 to 10 megabit if they were at 1080p 30. So they were probably sending out about 25 to 30 megabit. So over Wi-Fi. Yeah, and he didn't even hardwire. I was like, dude, you got Ethernet's right around the corner. I know you got a long Ethernet cable. That's my only advice is plug that thing in. Because it only took him 2.5 minutes to set up. 2.5 minutes. He timed it in front of everybody. 2.5 minutes. Plug it in the cameras, turn it on the mics, launching Ecamm. In fact, the thing that took the longest was to send the TD the remote team viewer login. That took longer because he had to, if he was using Splashtop, he would already been in because it's just automatic. You just double click the computer and you're in, so you don't even have to deal with that part.
You can do it with TeamViewer as well, which is it costs more.
Oh,
if
gotcha.
You want to do it unattended. Yeah. All right. Well, the questions are stacking up. What's next, Courtney?
All right, coming in from Berlin, Germany, Andre Dali says, I just purchased a base model Mac Mini as my host for Claude Code and 24/7 mini server with Parsec and Tailscale. What else should I put on it?
Nigel?
I did something pretty similar. I actually went down the Maltbot or the Claudebot route, and listening to Guy and other people, I sort of divined some by luck, by some judgment, a bunch of stuff I think I needed. So I would tell you the most useful thing is Splashtop. Guy just talked about it, so I can actually log on from my main machine and just have it running in the background. But there's a bunch of stuff like Node.js, Python. You're going to need all of that stuff probably installed to make it work and to do the sort of programming. I would tell you the other thing I use a lot is Telegram, because I have Sam, as my assistant is called, send me Telegram messages when I'm on my phone if they need something. Cool. I will tell you that Guy makes it look a lot easier than I found it. And it was a bit of a challenge. And I have to tell you, I had to claw my way through some of the messages I was getting to make it work. And I find that that's a really useful 1-2 punch. The other thing is that I've been training Sam that I'm not as smart as a lot of the rest of you. So to speak plain English, and sometimes Sam forgets and gives me gobbledygook. So I say now in plain English, oh yes, I'm sorry. And then it comes out again. But I think you'll discover that. But I think Node for automation, I think GitHub, Python for programming, some of those stuff are particularly useful. And then you can pick up the other skills as you need it, depending what you want to do with it.
Very cool. Guy?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. If you are just kind of using it as an experimental machine, I have an older M2 that I had laying around, and I was using it for some other testing. And so I put Claude, well, first it was called ClaudeBot, then it went to Moltbot, and now it's OpenClaw. And so it's gone through these transformations. And in that time, competitors are now starting to show up like, so Perplexity had something early on, but it was not nearly as good as OpenClaw, because OpenClaw is just like, you've let the guardrails off. As soon as you say like allow node to do this and allow node to do that and take off all the security, it owns your machine. It could do anything. So it is a little dangerous. And I'm with Nigel. It can be complicated to set up, and you feel kind of weird hitting allow. So mine doesn't have any of my email. It doesn't have nothing. Like it's its own isolate. It's on its own isolated network. It can't touch anything. But I'm having fun, like letting it learn DaVinci Resolve and having fun playing with it. And then the other day I was out at breakfast with a friend of mine, and I told it that same thing that we said when Chris Fenwick was here, when I was just like, hey, can you open up Keynote, make 10 slides and start the first one with, this time I said, say, put Apple on the first one, put banana on the next one, and put cantaloupe on the third one. And then when I opened it up and to show him, it had gone through and automatically put D, E, F, G. Like it was smart enough to go ahead and just start popping. It's like, I get what you're doing. And it just went down and made all these slides. And he was just like, no way. He's like, okay, I gotta go get a Mac Mini now. Because he's like, why don't I just do it on a VPS in Amazon? And I'm like, well, because there's these built-in apps and Apple Script, and that's kind of the joy of it. Is it like opens up notes, it opens up Keynote, so it really knows those ones. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I'd be playing with if it's just a machine to learn on. And I mean, I think everybody should get it, even an old Mac Mini M1, and just try this out, because you can pick those up for under $200, and it's a lot of fun to see what it can do, see the power. Because I'm running DaVinci Resolve on an M2, so DaVinci Resolve Studio works on an M2 base model.
Yeah, so good. Courtney?
Yeah, Andre didn't say, but I'll ask Guy what he runs on his. How much memory do you load that? Do you get the 8 gig version, or you get a 32 gig?
Yeah, so the one that I have is just the 8 gig. I did install it on another bigger one just to see, but again, because of the guardrails, I'm not able to. I should just put its own email address on there and start to let my guard down a little bit, because the people that are having a lot of fun are letting it do some of that personal assistance. It's really what Siri should have been, and I'm anxious to see what Perplexity does.
Is it running the model
Yeah,
locally?
it's all locally. Yeah, it's
local.
all on the box, so the box just is down the hall. But I'm talking to it through Telegram most of the time, and then so if I'm driving, I could just ask it something on Telegram. Like I was asking it for plane ticket fares to San Diego, and it's so cool when I came back and they were all open on my web browser.
Isn't that tying it back into an LLM?
Yeah,
like
so
using
mine
some
is
tokens.
It has to
exactly
find current prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it goes to I've attached mine to OpenAI's $20 plan for ChatGPT. So at first I had it on Claude, and that was amazing. But then people started saying, hey, you're going to get banned. And I was like, I don't want to get banned. I love my Claude Code. So, and I'm on the big $200 a month plan, but I didn't want to get banned. So I took it off there. And then we used Shure, gave us like $20 credit to use. And we taught some people in after hours how to let it see what it does with Mimo Live. And we tore through $20 in like 3 hours, because we were just letting it use its own API. And then I attached it to OpenAI, and OpenAI, since their deal, so OpenAI acquired OpenClaw essentially. They made a deal with Peter Steinberger. It's still going to be open source, but you do have to hook some kind of LLM into it, and you could run one locally. Some people are getting like these $10,000 Mac studios and running Olama or one of these bigger LLMs, and nothing goes out. It stays local. So that's like next level. I mean, that's like this guy Alex Finn. He's doing some crazy stuff with his his $10,000 computer. He's got 2 of them. I'm like, man, 2 open claws. He was just on Peter Diamandis' channel talking about all this crazy stuff that he's doing with the future. And he's like, how much do you pay employees? And I'm like, I guess you got a point, man. If
Yeah.
this thing is running 24 hours a day and you can get it to do stuff that an employee would do, like, amazing.
I would tell you that I also created a whole separate set of accounts for this personal assistant. So they have their own Gmail, they have their own Apple account. So I created like a whole separate personality. So you do have access. So you can use the Google tools. But I have to tell you, I did break down unless it accessed my Google calendar, my iCloud calendar. And one of the things my daily email does, which always amuses me, is it tells me the temperature. So Sam sends me a daily email every day, a whole bunch of stuff in it, including the temperature in Orlando and the temperature where it thinks I am, which is interesting because my calendar
Cool.
discipline
Based
is
on the
fairly
calendar.
low. And then if it's above 65, it says I can wear shorts.
It'll allow you.
Has it seen your
just
legs,
about-
though? That's the
Oh,
problem.
yeah, that's what I was about to say, Nigel. I'm like, Sam knows where you are now. It's a little concerning. He's keeping tracks of you. You make sure you get to this appointment. That's cool. Andre, you might have also been, there's a deep dive into Claude and all of that. But it's just as a server online, I tell you, I love having a couple of home computers that are online that I can access when I'm away. And one of those things too, you might find that Plex server is really cool for having being able to access media. So you might have a bunch of home videos and whatever. You can access them super simply. It's almost like rolling your own Netflix. And if you have old DVDs and things that you've ripped or whatever, then it picks up the metadata and shows it all there. And so it's a pretty cool. I have a Plex media server running it, and it works great. So it's a couple of those things that are really handy. And so then being able to remote in, and I think you're doing Parsec and whatever remote in. I was just overseas recently, and being able to just get back to a computer at home, be able to access things really fast. I even did it from the air. I was on the plane, remoted into my computer, made a couple of changes, and did a few different bits and pieces, and it worked great. So it's actually really cool. Apart from having your own, agent doing things, just having a computer that runs as a server is very nice. So cool. Have fun with that. Report back to us. Tell us how you got on. All right, next question.
Do you have to pay each of those agents 10%, though? That's what I'm worried about.
That's
Next,
This
next
isn't
question.
Hollywood.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Next question comes in from Mike Muddy Schlegel in Raleigh, North Carolina, and here on the panel tonight. Has anyone tried the new MacBook Neo? Thoughts on usefulness for events and production?
Nigel?
I think it only shipped on Friday, so someone will have to have jumped in pretty quickly. I think this is a classic case of it depends. If you have a PA or somebody who needs to take notes and is using fairly simple stuff, then that A18 is probably really powerful enough to do that. You may even be able to do some sort of mild picture editing and photo stuff. If, however, by production you mean putting it in your workflow to control the event, I don't think it's going to do that. But I do think it's a really interesting signal that Apple is changing the economics on the lower end laptop. When I used to be in the laptop business or supplying to it, and we always used to note that on the above $1,000 point, Apple had like 95% of the market, which was, if you wanted 95% of any market, that'd be a good one to have. And at this price point, 600, and I bet they could go low if they wanted to as well. And they're going to really do some interesting stuff, but it's probably still for the lower end. I think more than Chromebook, less than a basic MacBook type work.
Yeah. Carl?
So yesterday I was in the city and I popped into the Apple store just to take a look. So I played around for 5 minutes. As far as power, it sits between the M1 and the M2. So on all aspects. So on single thread, multi-thread, and GPU, it sits in between the M1 and the M2 as far as power. So for people out there who have maybe a stack of Mac Minis and they use them in production. But the PA, so this is something Nigel just said. If you have a PA who's currently working off their phone, running around doing stuff, it's really good to have up to half a dozen of these, because the family plan, you can actually put your production account, make a production account for iCloud, have all your software that you need for that. So you can have your pro apps, what they call the creative apps now, I guess, and they can be shared across 6 computers, 6 devices. So you can have all of those. Now, they may not need the Final Cut Pro, but what they may want to use, of course, is Freeform and Pages, Notes, Keynote, all that kind of stuff. So you can have essentially 6 PA production laptops at, you can get education pricing if you can find it. So that'll be $3,000 for 6 laptops that you can hand out to any PA, to anyone who needs to access the online stuff, to access anything to do with the production. Registration, just chuck them, here's a computer, go do this. Go across to a vendor, take the computer with you, go to a vendor and show them what you need and all that. Or to do basic work, can you get to a 2-minute clip, just put it together in whatever, iMovie and Final Cut Pro, what doesn't really matter. But to have 6 production machines all sharing the same account, same production account, because of family sharing, for $3,000 or, $3,600, depending on what price you get. Or you can go up to Touch ID. You can spend the extra $100 and get Touch ID and a little bit larger storage if you're going to do some kind of work on it. But it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer, because what you don't have with the iPhone, let's say PAs running around with an iPhone, they don't have any real input device. They don't have a larger screen to share it with someone else. They may have battery, so battery will probably last about the same on an iPhone as it would on a laptop of that size, even though the battery is huge in this thing apparently for the A18. But yeah, my strong suggestion, if you have a crew that's 6 or larger, then getting 3 to 6 of these, putting them all on the same account, it's a no-brainer for PAs and people who need access to a computer occasionally. And then, of course, you're going to have people who are living on computers. They'll have whatever they need. They'll have the correct tool for that job. This is for all those jobs you can't think of, but you need more than a phone. You need something more than a phone. iPads are interesting, but the thing is, one iPad would cost the same as one of these. And this is probably more usable than an iPad. It doesn't have Thunderbolt. You don't need Thunderbolt for this. That's what I mean. Its power is enough. People around who've been around Office Hours for a long time, we do a lot of work on M1s and M2s. So this sits right between those two as well, as far as capabilities.
Marty, your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad to hear that response, because between an M1 and an M2, I mean, I've got Zoom ISO and Zoom OSC running on an M1 Mac Mini, right? So,
Totally.
And I just heard from someone earlier today saying they picked up one of these and had it in Zoom and running breakout room controls, and so those kinds of things that are in Zoom production, right? So not necessarily running some of these other production tools that are pushing into Zoom, but if you're in Zoom, chat moderation, breakout room moderation, those kinds of things, it sounds like this could do no problem, which is great. And there's plenty of jobs like that to be done on big events. So yeah, very cool.
Totally. Yeah, it is. And I think it's fascinating to me. I saw a breakdown of one, and they were just like, it's got this tiny little motherboard in it, which is essentially a phone, and it's got a massive battery, and it's a screen. I mean, it basically is a phone just with a big large screen, which is why the input output, like the I/O on it is quite limited. Not Thunderbolt,
That's right.
USB-C.
The A processors don't support Thunderbolt. That's right.
And it's USB 3 and USB 2. Yeah, but the other one is a USB 2 essentially port, and so it is pretty limited in that sense, which is the same as a phone. But to your point, Muddy, like, think on some of the shows that we do where you just kind of want dedicated computers to tasks, and by having a keyboard and a screen, and you just have a table with 3 or 4 of these things that are doing an individual task, I mean, it would barely be ticking over the processor at all on some of the stuff that we're doing. But I did see a video of 4K video running in Final Cut, doing it, no problems. Like it
It's more
was,
powerful than an M1,
can
so
totally do
it
it.
can do whatever an M1
Yeah.
could do, and DaVinci this can do.
Yeah.
Ingest is
Yeah.
another one too. So if you need to get ingest, this is a great machine for
Yeah.
ingest. Getting stuff up to the cloud.
Unless you wanted it to be Thunderbolt speed, but yes. It's,
Well, 10 gig is fast. There's no media that's going to be faster than 10 gig for capture. There's no capture out there that's faster than 10 gig. So 10 gig's fine for that.
Yeah. From a card. Yeah.
From a
whatever you
camera or a
copy
card,
from. Yeah. Fair enough. All right, next question.
Comes in from Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington. Current project has really opened my eyes as to how much I haven't used in Bitfocus Companion and the possibilities to change workflow. What non-AI tools have you been using or rediscovering to expand your workflows?
Good one. Guy?
Yeah, the one that if you're a big Bitfocus fan, which I know you are, Zach, and I know you just got the big one, the 32, which I'm kind of jealous because I want one. But as I thought about this question, because I've been going deep down the rabbit holes, I won't bore you with all that stuff. But as I thought about the question, it reminded me of this, which is the ability to create in Bitfocus buttons all these different workflows. So you have workflows that you can set up where you can do different variables. So a lot more things that you can do besides what you could do in regular Companion. So once you get it connected, like this is overkill, like I made this button, but you could see here that it works, it's switching actually, is it working? Oh, it's reconnecting. Sorry, my splash top is reconnecting for some reason.
Sound like
But yeah, this normally works. So this is a bunch of buttons that as I was testing out the ability to hide, like stream and record for a volunteer. So that button goes away so they can accidentally, if it's a church function and you say, go ahead and just press camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, they can't accidentally hit that. So that's kind of unique. And this could be on an iPad. This could be on that MacBook Neo. So this just shows up as localhost 3000, but in buttons, you basically can create this look to be whatever you want. So I'd be playing with that. If you're looking for stuff to do, buttons, because it's free now. There's a free tier. So for your one device, go at it, man. It doesn't cost I think it was $10 a month initially when it first came out, but that's what I'd be learning and playing with is Bitfocus buttons. There's a lot of power under the hood.
Can you sort of cross over between, because the plugins or the modules from Companion can work in buttons, is that right? Is that how that works?
They are all inherited in there, but some people have actually gone in and created additional things. So like if you put an AJA Key Pro in Companion and you hit the presets, you're not going to see anything in there, but you do it in here and they're all there. It's like I don't know how that works as to who made those, because they are different, like that flyover thing. So when I add my control surface for rewind, play, forward, it puts them all there. So I didn't have to design any of those buttons. Somebody already did it. So I think because it's a paid application and it's for professionals, that there's more in there. So I don't know who made those or how that all works, but it's there. So especially I'd imagine on some of the higher end stuff that you'd see in a truck where they're trying to sell those studio rack mount versions of the Stream Deck into with the NMOS, because this is just starting, like the whole NMOS NDI router. Because if you could get one of those Densitron things for a fraction of the price, why would you why would you buy a Densitron if it's just basic stuff and you could customize it with Companion or Bitfocus buttons to a finer degree? And especially with the user lockout and all that stuff, the pin. So there's some sophistication inside of buttons that you probably will never see in a Densitron.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we need to pick up the pace a little bit because we've got quite a few questions. But Carl?
MIDI. So MIDI into Companion is, I like playing with that. I've got a lot of MIDI
That's
devices and I just play around with Companion a little bit. So, and you can have MIDI touchpads, so 8x8 touchpads and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. One thing I see you can use it for quite well is also setting up, let's say you have three multiple cameras, you want to set up exposure, white balance, that kind of stuff. You can set up one camera, make that as a preset, record what you've done to that camera, and simply just plug in the other two cameras to go send and send. So you can kind of do that a little bit in Blackmagic, but you can do this with kind of any camera. As long as the three cameras are the same brand, essentially, it'll work.
Nice one. Muddy?
Yeah, well, I just recently this past week built a studio for a client outside of Atlanta, and one of the things I've been using Companion for is helping them see that a little bit bigger, helping them manage the studio. So again, camera presets, but also being able to turn on and off screens or send screens to different locations, right? So there's multiple screens in front of them. So there's a video hub and an ATEM constellation. And so with inputs and outputs, we can use those in Companion. So the client never has to manage any of the gear in the rack or any of the computers. They just have a Stream Deck. And when they want to do something else, they're like, hey, can we have a button that turns the lights to a chill mode, right? It's like, great, sure, we can program a button and now lights are at 10% and we get some blue highlight. You know, it's not show mode with full brightness and daylight colors, but you know, so that's the kind of thing that Companion, because any one button in Companion can have multiple actions, right? So it can set TV1 goes here, TV2 goes there, and it can have these essentially automations, but all within kind of one button press.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I was going to mention. I really love sort of the source or the destination and source combination that you can do in Companion, particularly you know, with like a video hub protocol, either a video hub like a Blackmagic video hub, or even using an ATEM using the video hub protocol, which is what you can do with all the ATEMs. And so I really like that, because when I set up a space, I have all of my monitors going through a hub, and now just having Companion being able to choose, yeah, this is the TV, you know, this is the monitor, and then this is what I want on it, bang. And it's just, I really like that. Same with some PTZ control, like choose which PTZ, and then now I'm choosing, you know, I'm doing the directions on it or whatever. And doing that even across multiple Stream Decks is pretty cool as well, right? Where one is just selection and you know, source, and one is destination, or you know, that sort of thing is pretty cool. So have a play around with that.
We'll add one other little thing, which is I needed a way to be able to have this Stream Deck for the client in the middle of the studio that they could be able to control. And so actually one of the things, I've got a Mac Mini in there running Companion satellite, so it's connected to that, but testing some different options, one with the network dock, so I could just have a PoE Ethernet cable running to that, or some very long powered active USB-C extension, or even a 30-foot fiber optic USB-C to C. So testing some different options that will be the most reliable, because what I don't want is the thing to blink out in the middle of, you know, in the middle of a show, which sounds like a potential problem with some of these solutions. So anyway,
yeah, I wonder whether an iPad with the, you know, the buttons, you know, on an iPad could work as well, right? Like it's totally wireless, and yeah, just keep it really simple. Little iPad Mini would be sweet, you know, that type of thing. You get a nice little holder for it and things. Yeah. Cool. Next question.
Next one comes in from Manila in the Philippines. Mickey Makachor asks, how does one join multiple Obvio rooms in multiple Obvio Zoom areas on one computer for monitoring purposes?
Muddy, you know a little bit about this.
Well, I do, and I'll be interested to hear what Grant says as well. The one thing that is needed in order to make this work is the same thing that is needed for joining any multiple Zoom rooms from one computer. Is you need to have an account, a Zoom account that you're signed into, that is enabled to be able to join multiple meetings. If you have that, Bob's your uncle, because you can join multiple Zoom rooms as long as you're signed into that client. When you join the second Obvio Zoom room, it just opens another instance of Zoom. And so you can have those multiple instances of Obvio, of Zoom, which is, you know, you're accessing it through Obvio, but once you open it, it's Zoom. And so you can have multiple instances of Zoom running on your computer if you're logged into a client that is enabled to run multiple Zoom meetings at once.
Yeah, exactly that. Doesn't matter what you're joining as whether you're the host or whether you're an attendee of those different, 5 different Zoom meetings. It's just a flag that's sitting in the logged in client on Zoom that allows it to launch another instance of Zoom. And so we just have that set. I'm always logged into one, and so then I can just I was just doing it just before we started this show. I had this logged in, and then I had another meeting that I joined. And so I was, talking in that one and then came back to this one. It allowed me to do it. So if you can't get that, setting to work, because I don't know if it's a pro feature or something. I guess it is. I
believe it's business
checked
or
that.
enterprise. It's not available to enable on a pro account.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I mean, they have added the business. You can get a one user account, business account now. So you could get that for this. But the other thing is now that there are so many different, like I've done it before where I've had a Zoom OSC client running and a Zoom ISO client running and a Zoom graphics and a Zoom tiles and you have all these different ones and launch them all and manage to get multiple going. But yeah, it's all about what the default launcher is for Zoom as well, and you've got to watch that. So it's a bit tricky.
As Carl said, just pick up 5 MacBook Neos and you just lay them across the table, and you're good.
Just join one each. It'll be much easier. Nice. Next question.
This one comes in from Berlin, Germany. Andre Dali says, speaking AI Claude Code, do you carefully watch token usage before auto-compacting of chat? And do you manually compact before, or do you just let it do its thing and eat up all your token?
Nice geeky question, Guy.
Yeah. As I was getting into this, I didn't know what I was doing, and I would keep going, and I'd be like, why did it forget? We just had this conversation. So I didn't even know. So this is a good question because a lot of people just don't know what this stuff does and what it means. So I feel sorry for the folks that did what I did initially on ChatGPT, where they tried to design an app and it would just forget stuff, and you get so infuriated because it's like, I just told you that. What are you doing? And so it gets to be where you just don't even want to keep going on a project because it's no fun anymore. And what I learned was that it has a limited amount of what they call context. So Claude has about a 200,000 token limit that it can hold in basically memory. And as soon as it compacts, it summarizes. So a compact just means it's going to summarize. And unless you went in there and wrote it to what's called an MD file so that it would store it on a file for long term. So what a lot of developers do is they put this stuff inside of GitHub so that longer term stuff, so it's the plan, work the plan, and put the code that's relevant into this file so that you can recall it and work on something the next day, the next month, and it's all there. It doesn't forget. But what Andre's talking about is when you get close to that limit, do you start to freak out because you're afraid it's going to forget and summarize? And so you could just ask it, can you write the relevant stuff to my MD file, update my Claude MD file, or update my memory, or where are we at with this plan? I'm going to work on this tomorrow, or we're about ready to auto compact. So there's certain things that you could say. And I know Churig's in the chat and he'll probably correct me with the proper way to do this, but I've been trying to be a little bit more aware because I don't want to get frustrated with the thing anymore, because it just seems like you could spin your wheels if you don't know what you're doing. But we're all on a journey together. So that's a great question, because hopefully you don't have to go through the torture that I went through if you learn how to do this right instead of doing it the hard way and yelling at the screen.
Yeah, I don't know. Codex is doing it automatically, and I see it every now and again, sort of compressing. I feel like it's doing a pretty good job of that now. And the other thing is that I just saw Gemini has just announced 2 million token context, and so which is just huge. And so I'm sure they're all going to start getting there too, where that context,
it's not going to matter as much.
So
I started, you got me using Codex, and it seems to be smarter and less of this oh, you're absolutely right. Like, it just makes you want to punch the screen when it says that, and you're like, dude, come on, this is Captain Obvious. But the codex has been super smart, and for this month of March, they've given you for free the double the token limit, so it's 400,000. And so I've been coding a lot more in codex lately, and it's been a lot better. I'm less frustrated because it's not a suck a fan. It's not like I'm less amped to get, my blood boiling at Claude, at Codex than I am with Claude. In fact, I'm going to lower my Claude account down and bring Codex up.
Yeah, I was just playing. I missed this, the little plan toggle. I don't know if you've used that, but you just toggle into plan mode, and I've just been doing this. I didn't have to do that before, but there was just this particular thing. I was like, I really don't want you to start building this until we've planned it. And the thing that I noticed is it starts almost giving a menu, which is much quicker. Like when it asks a question, it's then like, here's the three options. And you can just, arrow down, enter, and so it's like really quick to just be like punching out answers to questions. So I'm loving that plan mode now. And then, I built something, yes, like literally yesterday, someone said, oh, how do we do this? We haven't got a way to do this. And so I was like, and then just here, I've now got a whole website that does it for you. It's like, where did that come from? So it's pretty amazing. Cool. Next question.
Back down to the Southern Hemisphere to Wellington, New Zealand, where Ian asks, anyone tried the new free Elgato Wave Link 3.0 software with other USB microphones or interfaces like the Shure MV range?
Carl?
Yeah, it'll work with anything essentially. So this is Elgato. It's more of a limited version of audio hijack and loopback kind of scenario. Just a bit more basic. You do a little bit less with it. That's hence the free part. But essentially, it's just an in-out matrix for audio, and it runs on Windows. So for those of you out there who want to use your Windows, this may give you a much better thing than using like a full mixer like Potato or something. It's a little bit more elegant looking, like audio hijack and loopback are. But yeah, it gives you similar functionality, which is quite good.
Nice one. Next question. Oh, Muddy, I'm jumping.
Well, I was just going to say the other use case is the Stream Deck Plus. So the encoders, the dials, work really well with the Wave Link software. I haven't used the new Wave Link 3, but if you have a Stream Deck Plus device, that's one of the devices that previously qualified you to download. Because in order to use Wave Link previously, you needed either an Elgato microphone or one of their audio device interfaces or the Stream Deck Plus. And if you had the Stream Deck Plus, you could install the Wave Link software. And so the encoders, you can have, multiple microphones. So, and I, again, set this up for a client where mic 1, which is a hardwired mic, is on dial 1. And again, if you push it, it mutes, or turn it to turn your volume up and turn your level up and down, your gain up and down, essentially. Mic 2 was a wireless mic, and then the last dial was their speakers on their desk. So having those dials right there in front of them on the Stream Deck Plus was a great use case, a great experience with the Wave Link software. Now, note, you need to use the Stream Deck native software and native profile in order to get those to work as well as possible. But you can use Companion and Stream Deck at the same time with the right settings, and it's a little annoying, but it's workable. And for this setup, that was the primary use case for the Stream Deck Plus, which actually, the last thing I'll say is that you can also separate devices, which Stream Decks run on Companion and which Stream Decks run on the Stream Deck software. And so you can set the Stream Deck Plus to work with the Stream Deck software and use a different Stream Deck to run with Companion if you want. So,
good one. Yeah, you can use the plugin, right? Like a Stream Deck plugin of Companion, and it puts
that's
in
right.
plugin mode, and away it goes.
And because it's all made by Elgato, it works really well together. Yep.
Nice. Next question.
Next question comes from Muddy Schlegel in Raleigh, North Carolina. A client just installed a 12-foot by 6-foot LED wall. What are some ways to create photorealistic backgrounds that would work well on an LED wall?
Carl?
So if you're looking at like creating via AI, then like Nano Banana or Grok Imagine, they will do high res. Even Grok Imagine would give you like half a dozen per day for free. So that's if you want to create. If you want to go look at a library, then look at stock images. Another way to do it cheaply would actually be looking at places that do high quality wallpapers. So high quality wallpapers come in multiple aspect ratios. May be another avenue that's relatively cheap as well. Because yeah, either way, you're going to pay for it if you want high quality, because the free versions of even the AI stuff won't give you more than probably like 2000 by 2000 pixels, but that may be enough. Now, if you're looking at using that wall to do a live kind of, where you want to put live imagery up there and even just have the live imagery move with the camera, then using the Vive Mars cam tracker system is probably the simplest way of doing it. So this system is pretty good. It's pretty simple to set up as well. So you can simply just have here, showing here with the cam tracker, the Mars, and then you put in your engine of choice. And then here they're showing with the composite, but you don't have to do composite. You can actually just take the render and send the render directly to the screen. Here they're showing a green screen method, but that render can actually just go straight out to a screen, of course, and that can actually be your background rather than having to do a composite. And then you can pick your engine here, and there's a few other engines, but these are the more common ones.
Courtney, you want to go first?
You might look at Flux 2. Flux 2 has been noted recently for its high quality photorealistic generation of AI images of landscapes or people or places or things. So you might think about that. And I saw that picture that you showed us earlier. I think it showed that LED wall behind the person in that studio that you were showing us earlier. It looks like it's pretty close to the talent. So you might want to have something that can put a little Gaussian blur on there to make it look like it's a little further away, so that it doesn't look like an LED wall that's just about 2 feet behind him.
Yeah. Muddy?
Yeah, and I did. Now this photo where this is showing is this is not where the talent would stand. The talent would stand kind of in the middle. So there's probably, and this is room is 20 feet wide, but these screens are probably 3 feet in from the wall. So it's probably 12 feet between the camera and the wall, and the talent would stand here in about the middle. And so what I have tried so far is creating some prompts. Actually, in ChatGPT helped me with the prompts, and when I talked it through the green screen, it gave me, or told it it was going to be on an LED wall, it gave me this kind of methodology that said, you know, the edges should be the most blurred, and kind of these three, it gave me the information, but it couldn't generate the images, right? So then or at least not well. So, but I was able to create kind of the prompt information and then use that in, this was just Gemini. The problem I had the first time when I loaded these up is that they all appeared very washed out. And so it did not look realistic, you know, and so, you know, there's probably some settings around brightness and camera settings to get dialed in as well. But, you know, create a handful of them, but just interested to see what others have done. So thanks for the insights.
Yeah, I don't know, Muddy, if you saw a few weeks ago, we had Ryan Summerfield on.
That's what made me think about this. Ryan's,
okay.
that whole,
right?
thing that he created was freaking amazing.
Mind-blowing, right?
So maybe I just need to hire Ryan and be done with it.
Maybe. Socially You is the company he works for. And they like specialize in just doing live, you know, basically live to tape, already composited everything. And
lighting,
I loved what he was,
and all of that was amazing.
Yeah, like lens position, and then multiple angles for like when pushing in and having a different depth of field. And I loved what he was saying too about having little lights flashing on certain devices, or a ceiling fan moving, or I'm like, that's next level.
Yeah, because one of the ones I created was like water in the background, but the water is not rippling, right? Or like, it had
Right.
like little candles, but the candle's not flickering. It's like, okay,
Flickering.
it's not gonna hold the illusion very long without any movement in it. So
No.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's very interesting you're talking about, yeah, building the prompt in something and then going somewhere else. And that seems to be common. And Gemini is particularly good. I heard about faces, and I know you're not doing faces, but as an example, you're able to say, like, don't change the face at all, but change the angle or change the background or whatever. And it does a very good job at that. At where most of them, like if you have a face, it just looks completely different. Whereas that actually is able to, I think, take the real subtle prompts. And so by saying how high is the camera as an example, and what the lens is, it seems to really, yeah, take notice of that. So yeah, it's a good one. Next question.
This one comes in from Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington. Using Zoom Rooms and AV controller, auto-moving guests at startup is not passing guest audio to NDI. Repinning the rooms and guests and audio flows through. Any troubleshooting ideas?
Interesting.
Smells
Guy?
like a bug.
Yeah, maybe it is something. I see Andy's in chat, so maybe Andy will reply if we say his name 3 times. In the meantime, I'll shoot from the hip and say, what are your settings here in the Zoom backend for separate audio? And also is your Dante enabled for the outputs? The other thing is, if you have it running, be aware that you can also use some OSC settings. I had it right. Well, I used some of Omar's code, and I was starting to work on an OSC pinner that would basically allow me to see all the participants and then pin them with OSC, so I could do it super fast. But that's a whole nother project, and I don't remember if you like AI and programming, but there is the OSC control in custom AV. So I would first, though, go back to that admin setting, and I would try and see what happens if you uncheck or check separate audio and see if that behavior is consistent. And if you're not using Dante, I would uncheck Dante because it might be trying to send the audio down that path first and then it not being there. So I would check those settings. And when your room is active, you do have some Dante settings underneath the control.
He said that separate is turned off, but if you're vibe coding, use the Zoom Room controller SDK directly and skip the OSC. Interesting.
Good stuff.
But it sounds like a sequence thing to me. You know what I mean? It's like it's just because of the auto moving, it's just out of sequence and it's not quite getting that aligned in time before it's moving. But yeah, I wonder whether, I don't know how you're moving the people around, but adding some delays in there might be all it needs. And manually and sorry, automating that, scripting that yourself and adding some breaks in there might be all it needs. But it's cool. Next question.
Next one comes in from Phoenix, Arizona. Justin James asks, what is the production setup for today's show?
Yeah, Guy, I think Mimo Live still, right?
It is indeed. So it is a Mimo Live build that a few of the people in the community have figured out how to tunnel in. So it's Cloudflare tunnel access to this machine that's sitting right next to me. Actually, I did an unboxing video and put the Mac Studio right here, and it meant to go in the rack, but it's now still sitting here, which is convenient because now I can cut to it. So it is just sitting right here. So I have it running through a decimator, and now you get to hear my happy dogs.
Oh, it's got
but
it's
that's
run
what it
on
is.
dog power. Is that what it is?
Dog power and woof woof. So we're getting more levels. You could check dog. There you go. But yeah, I got 2 ups, 3 ups, all pre-built. Thankfully, a bunch of people met on a Saturday because Alexander Knight uses it for his show, so he helped build these layouts. Oliver Breidenbach helped build it. Ronnie Hofsoy. So a lot of people in the community, and I'm surprised that we don't have more people because tonight we didn't have Taylor, so we were short a person. So if you're interested in learning this stuff, volunteer because this machine's sitting here and it doesn't get used 5 days out of the week. So people could come in and play on it. You just got to get credentials. Once you get trained up, then you can play and have fun on it. So it's sitting here with a 10 gig connection. So it's, and it's the community's to use. That's Oliver's, nice gift to the community is use the machine. He parked it here for the community to use. So thank you, Oliver.
That's very cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great way to learn, and we want to continue doing more with being able to see how it's working, and even hearing, like, one of the things we use, the crew in the background uses space comms as well, to be able to communicate with each other. It'd be great to have space comms that people can hear as well, right? And so you're hearing the whole, you get the whole feel of how the whole show works together. So there you go. Next question.
Next one comes in from Zach Jeffers in Spokane, Washington. Does anybody use the Apple AirPods Max either in day-to-day or in production? They released a new version today with better automatic noise cancellation and improved high fidelity.
For those just listening, we had full air quotes going on there with Courtney. Nigel, what have you got?
I do like my high fidelity. Yes, I have the first version. I didn't upgrade to the second version, and I don't think I'll be upgrading to the third, because as wonderful as I'm sure they are, version one is working fine. I wouldn't use them in production, but they are my airplane and travel headphones. I would note that I didn't need them to do a new upgrade, but I desperately am waiting for a new Apple TV. So I never fail to be amazed by how Apple can put products that I don't want on the market while refusing to give me those that I do.
Yeah, that's right. Carl, what did you think?
Yeah,
about
so this is
these?
a pretty big update. The last update was just USB-C. There was no change whatsoever to anything else internal, the padding, everything. So this is completely new. So Apple don't want you to think it's new. This is kind of similar to the Vision Pro. The Vision Pro version 2, they're not calling it that, but it is an enormous update to the Vision Pro. This is the same here. So this has the 10-core H2s in there. So most people don't realize that the H2 that's in, let's say, the standard AirPods Pro, version 3, I guess, they have 4 cores. So they have 4 cores per ear. These have 10 cores per ear. The reason why is because these have a microphone inside the ear cup. They have a microphone outside, but they actually have a microphone inside each ear cup listening to what you're hearing. And that's how it does the adaptive EQ. There's no other AirPod that can do that. So hence why this has a price, but this is an enormous upgrade. They've updated also the analog part of this. So the amplifiers have been updated quite substantially as well. The very first one, the very first AirPod Max, and then the USB-C version, which was exactly the same, no change. While it did have the H1 10 core, that's about the only thing it had in it that was kind of like cutting edge. Everything else was kind of like maybe a 7 out of 10. Now the components in this and everything else are now getting close to a 9 out of 10. And this is coming from probably because the quality of engineering that's going into the generation 2 of the Vision Pro. So what we're seeing in the upgrade of the Vision Pro, we're now seeing here in the AirPod Max as well. So it's not just the powerful chipset, it's what it enables, and the fact they've upgraded the analog part, so the actual stuff that converts a digital to analog converter, and then the analog amplifiers and the cones and the padding and everything else is updated as well. So it's a big upgrade.
Does that change it for you, Nigel? Hearing some of those details?
It is a big upgrade, I'm sure it is. But would I rebuy a $600, US headset when mine is pretty good to use on airplanes? I'm just not there.
No, I think it's $1,000 in Australia. But yes, I have the original ones, and I'm quite happy with them. They are on the heavy side, which when paired with the Vision Pro, which is a nice way to do it, you get a good neck workout. So there you go. All right. So like This Week in Tech used to be back in the day, they tried to keep their show to 74 minutes. Do you remember that? It was gone are those days, because now they're like 3.5 hour shows sometimes. But they used to try to keep it to 74 minutes because people would burn it to a CD, and listen to it in the car or whatever. And so I have found that this show is pretty close to that kind of 74 minutes, but we do like doing content recommendations, and so we're going to go around the horn and find out what people are suggesting in that way. Carl, what have you got first?
So for me, it's no surprise. It's going to be a documentary series.
Documentary series, yeah.
So it's history time. Now, up here in the banner, they've changed their banner recently to say original documentaries made by humans, no AI. Because these are long form documentaries. So these are, hour plus. There's a lot of AI hour plus documentaries out there. Essentially what it does is it writes a script that will go for like 90 minutes. It will string together essentially free or available stock images, and then just have an AI voice read the script, and all someone has to do is just press go, and it just doesn't. And they just got to make sure that certain words and certain, but you can always tell because it reads out dates, it reads out names very peculiarly. These are human. This is all human scripts. Now this channel is pretty good. The sources of this stuff generally comes from most academics in history. Most of these episodes are written by. You'll notice in the description it will say which academic helped or did a fact check on that, or they're usually using the academic's book. So they're taking the book and they're condensing it down to a 90-minute documentary. But these are quite good. So if you're interested in history documentaries that aren't AI, no AI script, no AI voices, and the imagery is chosen by humans, this is one of the better ones.
Good one. Matty.
All right. My content recommendation tonight is a YouTube channel called Audio University. Interesting, we were talking about audio earlier, and I was mentioning the Stream Deck Plus. I saw Justin James was on. I actually learned that tip from Justin James using the Stream Deck Plus with Wave Audio. So shout out to Justin. But this channel, Audio University, I found to be an excellent. I really like this guy's kind of sensibilities and tone, but it's really designed for musicians and audio engineers to learn about audio production, but there are tools that really help a lot in the video production world as well. So yeah, that's my recommendation, Audio University.
Looks like they do office hours as well. Like a few days ago, there was a live stream. Yeah, very cool. Nice one. Well, I was too busy playing around with that. Courtney, what have you got?
I've got a couple of YouTube videos that, because being here in Hollywood, there's a new movie coming out Friday called Project Hail Mary. It's getting a whole lot of good buzz out there. And Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame has 2 videos up on the sets for Project Hail Mary. It was written by Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. It takes place in space, and there's a spacecraft, with an incredible amount of stuff inside of it, and it is a cylindrical spacecraft that has to have all of those panels that you see Adam in front of there removable so that they can stick the camera in and get shots. And so it's very interesting as to how they modularized all these displays, and each one of those lighting up buttons there is on a DMX controller and can be set to any color, any brightness, to give it any kind of feeling, because they're using there's not a lot of room for lights in this set because it's 360 degrees surrounding the actor, Ryan Gosling. So they use the lights from the buttons to do a lot of the lighting when it's behind the camera. So they have complete DMX control over each one of those button lights, any color, any brightness. Plus, there's all those displays that have graphics on them that are very carefully designed that pertain to the story, and each one of those is running, and each one of those sections of the set have to be removable. So and all that stuff has to be intact without it having to take you 7 hours to hook up all the wires again. So it's quite amazing. So there's two videos there, one on behind the scenes and another on how the spaceship was built. And so they go behind the scenes in showing the construction of that particular set. So that's kind of interesting. You may want to see the movie first. It opens Friday in theaters, that place where you go to and sit with a bunch of other people and munch on popcorn and listen to them open their candy wrappers while you're trying to watch the movie, So you can do that or wait till it comes to
Very
stream.
good. Well, and you would have a particular appreciation for that, Courtney, is because you've
Yes,
worked
having
on
done
many
displays,
sets
a lot of things like
displays
that,
and stuff.
designed a lot of those screens that run in loops. In fact, I had to build, I built a replica of HAL for an Apple commercial once. So I had to go back and reconstruct all of those screens that HAL was running for an Apple commercial.
That's
So I
cool.
know what it's like.
That's very cool. Nigel, what have you got?
Well, Courtney likes to be around people like that. I don't generally like people in those sort of large volumes, which is why I hang around with people like you. But I do like to road trip. And on our recent road trip, we have been listening to the Audible reproductions of the Harry Potter stories with full casts. And if you are a Harry Potter fan, or like me, it's 20 years since you've actually read any of the books and only seen the movies, and you want to understand all the detail that was missing, thoroughly recommend them. They're very good. Kids change after book 3. But the cast, including Hugh Laurie as Dumbledore, is really excellent. And if you have a long road trip coming up, great way to use a few hours.
Good one. Yes, my son is all into that, and every day, I think the whatever it was, 5th one or something came out last week or something, and so he's onto it on the day that that comes out. So using up all my Audible credits, not bitter. Guy,
I'm not going to recommend a book. So I want to,
okay.
but I always get a little bit of flack for killing trees and recommending not the kind of moving
an
content
audiobook?
that you want to see. It is an audiobook, actually.
Oh,
If I
okay.
could do the one that I wanted, but I'll pull an Alex
don't
and
tease
say,
us
okay,
now.
here's the video one that is kind of boring.
Okay.
This is the MacBook Neo, but this is the coolest part of the whole thing where they open it up and it's like a
Yeah.
phone inside of a keyboard shell. Like that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the side of his hand, and that's the processor, the
Nice.
RAM, the hard drive, everything all in one. But the book that I'm listening to on Libby that's just super fascinating that I got because of the Apple 50-year one is called The Innovators by Walter Isaacson, and he's the one who wrote Steve Jobs' biography. So I got this book based on the recommendation from the Apple 50-year one, and this thing's fascinating. I'm 6 hours into it. And if you don't have Libby, the Libby app on your phone, it's the library for free. So I didn't even buy this book. I have an Audible. I have like 20 credits because I get the year thing, but I always try to look on here first if I could get it for free. So nice tip there is if your library supports it, sign up for Libby, attach your library card, and you can listen to books for free. And then catch
For
flack
those
from Grant
in
for
America.
recommending a book.
Well, actually, you recommended an app and a book
And the Neo.
and a video.
I pulled a 3.
And you've blown us over the 74 minutes. So people that are burning this to a CD have not been able to hear it because it's gone over time. Well, the
Just speed it
80-minute
up.
CD though, the extended CD, you get the 80
There you
minutes.
go.
Put it on a
Close.
DVD. Come on, live with the future.
We can keep going. Keep going for days. No, look, we're losing Nigel as we speak. It's late. It's late there on the East
Past his
Coast.
bedtime.
That's right, exactly.
It's almost
the
today
for
Tulalog Traversal, 39,000 miles, 62,000 kilometers, 307. Now that's good. 370 million. I remember we were under 200 the other day. So I still want to do some deep dive analysis into our calculations. But I want to thank all the panel for joining us. It's been a nice little chat. Thank you. As you see, this show, we tend to, chew on the questions a little bit longer so we don't get through as many questions. But that was fun. And thank you also to all the crew that have been making it happen in the background. You'll see all their names in a moment. But big thank you to Peter, who was making this happen. And and you can join us again
And
next
Alan.
week. But also, and Alan, that's right. Thank you. What's on tomorrow night, Guy? Is there got something on?
Tomorrow's Wednesday, so tomorrow's Tuesday. So Tuesday Focus is Stream Deck with Bill Davis hosting. We've got Jeff Keithley. It's a Stream Deck episode with Justin James. Nice. We got
Good one.
Muddy. Are you on? Muddy, you're on too, right? No? Wanna be?
Yeah, I'm happy to come do that. Yeah.
Let me check with the people that be. That would be great to have you on and add to it. But you guys can catch that Stream Deck episode tomorrow, and hopefully you'll see Muddy as well. Oh yeah, and I see Robert's on the crew as well. Thank you, Robert.
That's right. Robert was too. Yeah. Yeah, nice one. So that's tomorrow, and then Wednesday, back to the morning, more of like a bit more of an audio show. Anyway, there's something happening all the time. Officehours.global, you can see it every day. We've got something happening. So thanks, everyone. Let's jump into after hours now if you want to keep the conversation going past the length of a CD. All right. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.